Hey everybody, welcome to So Many Sequels, your book club for movies. I'm Josh.
I'm Garrett.
And I'm David.
And this month is actually book club month for us, which is exciting. We're your real book club for movies this time.
Yes.
We're talking about movies that have been adapted from books all month long. We'd love to hear some of your favorites. Let us know at somanysequels.com. Check out our social media.
Yeah, because we're not picking them. We're not picking your favorites. I almost guarantee it.
Probably not.
Tell us what they are so we can do better in the future.
Yeah. Expand our own horizons.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
This week, we're going to be talking about The Black Phone, based on a short story of the same name from Joe Hill's 20th Century Ghost collection that came out in 2005. Be sure you subscribe to the show on YouTube and Spotify. That's where you can find the video. You can get the podcasts anywhere podcasts are downloaded. We're shooting for 343 subscribers on that YouTube. We're getting there. It's coming. It's getting closer. So go do that. Help support the show. Those numbers help us. It just does. Find more find more people who enjoy talking about movies and such. So go do that. Let's get into The Black Phone. This movie is about Finney Blake, a shy but 13-year-old boy who is abducted by a sadistic killer and trapped in a soundproof basement where screaming is of little use. When a disconnected phone on the wall begins to ring, Finney discovers that he can hear the voices of the killer's previous victims. And they are dead set on making sure that what happened to them does not happen to Finney. This movie came out in 2021. Weird year at the box office, but David, how did it do when it came out?
Actually, it came out in 2022.
Oh, what?
I think.
Did it?
But anyway, it came out June 24th, 2022. Made $23 million in its opening weekend. What an opening weekend this was. The number one movie that weekend was Elvis, followed by Top Gun Maverick in its fifth week, brought in $29 million. Jurassic World Dominion in its third week, brought in $26 million. You had The Black Phone at number 4 with $23.6 million. So really not a bad debut when you consider those bigger movies at the top. And then number 5 was Lightyear, Pixar's Lightyear with $18.1 million. It would go on to make $90 million in the United States, 71 overseas for a worldwide total of $161 million. So really, really great considering only an $18 million budget. So that's 9 times its production budget. It would finish the year as the number 23 film in the United States and the number 33 movie worldwide. It finished number 23 just ahead of, what was it? Just ahead of Scream, the remake, or not the remake, but Scream, whatever that is, 7 or 8. And just behind Where the Crawdads Sing here in the U.S. So overall, a really good box office run for The Black Phone, considering it is an original project. It is, a horror film that was released in the summer. And really only Ethan Hawke is kind of the only big name really attached to it, or widely known name. Overall, I could say it was a financial success, and now we'll get into sort of the critical analysis as we go.
So what brought you to this movie, Garrett? Why'd you land on The Black Phone? Had you read it before watching it?
No. When this movie came out in 2022, you said? I don't remember. It was new to me, but it looks really cool. And so I was, I don't know, it was a day off. I went and saw it, and I was like, oh my gosh, that was great. And then I swung by the Barnes & Noble right next to the AMC to give the chains a plug. And and I bought the book. And it was, it's a short story. So the movie, this is an instance where the movie gets to paint a broader brush. And a lot of times those are more successful. Growing up, I think of Secret Window with Johnny Depp. And that movie was so many people were so blown away by that movie. And you read this short story, and it really sets the tone and it sets the atmosphere. And this movie, I watched it, read it, and it really, there's so many moments that are in there, but because it's such a short story, the essence that it sets is carried throughout. And I just think that it did a really good job of expanding on what the short story did. So I was excited to talk about it. Also, to be truthful, familiarity and short story is great.
You're not
Josh,
wrong about
you
that.
had seen it. Yeah, you'd seen it, and you'd read it before, right?
Yeah, well, I read it after I saw it, same as you. And I remember being like, wow, I actually liked the movie a lot more, which is not something that happens often. But at the same time, like you said, it's a short story being turned into a movie. So there's room for expansion there that I just think worked for me a lot. So my expectations were, I mean, I love a serial killer story, right? Putting one in the 70s, even better. That's just like an eerie time. There was a lot of real life serial killers active in that period, and then throwing in basically a child detective and a supernatural element. I'm in. So
yeah,
I was pretty excited. That first time watching it. What were your expectations, David?
Yeah, I didn't really know what to expect. You know, Garrett has talked this movie up for like 3 straight years now, and I expected creepiness. I think that was really my only expectation. Is I knew about the mask. You know, that's all over the marketing. So I was expecting something pretty creepy, but I didn't really know. I managed to avoid a lot of the actual details. So I went in completely, for the most part, completely blind.
All right, excellent. Well, when the movie starts, we're introduced to Finney, our main character. He is a quiet, bullied kid, and at the same time, in this neighborhood or town, kids are disappearing. There's wanted or help find posters being put up around the town, and we also get to learn about his family, which is not a great home life. He lives with his sister and father, who is a bit of an abusive alcoholic. Their mother died. She had psychic abilities, or believed she did, and those are now passed down to Gwen, her daughter, the sister, potentially. How was this? What do you guys think about this setting the stage for this movie?
It sucks me in immediately because I'm like you, Josh. You know, you have a serial killer setting. I mean, this is, if you're going to do a serial killer movie, you got to set it in the 70s and the 80s. That is prime time, and it's just a really excellent representation of that period and that terror. The music sucks you in immediately. It was a whole lot of fun, but then it gets so heavy and so dark just really quickly, and there's so much tragedy surrounding this town with the people being abducted, and then you go into the home with Finney and his sister, and you see Daniel Faraday there from Lost, and you're like, oh my goodness, I'm glad he found his way there. And then he starts just abusing and drinking it to a level that's like, whoa, let's go back to the island there, bro.
Similar.
Dr. Faraday, that is Dr. Faraday, because he would come back an alcoholic.
Yes.
Similarly, I love how this movie looks. I really like the setting of, you know, like late 70s. It's everything looks kind of like a washed out photograph. It's very gray, except for like the uses of like blood, and like when the kids are there's kids are just wild abandoned. You know, they're having fights outside the school. They're they're threatening each other in the bathrooms. Like, there is zero supervision of children in this time period. You know, like, these kids live in a world of unreliable adults, and they are leaning on each other for everything. Similarly, I also, unfortunately, he was, you know, it's not a character I would necessarily root for, but I was excited because I know, what'd you say his name was on Lost?
Daniel Faraday.
Daniel Faraday. I know him as Dickie Bennett from the TV show Justified, and he's equally entertaining and captivating on that show. And he does a really good job here as well. It's so all around. But I also want to just praise, I think, the performances of all the kids. Yeah. You know, specifically, we have Mason Thames and Madeline McGraw, but also the kid who, oh gosh, I'm going to forget his name. I think his name was Robin, the like kid who's like, who beats up the bully, you know. I think all the kids give really great performances in this movie, and really, even though it's kind of a very idyllic memory, because like the kids are very tough and they're very like sure of themselves, at the same time there's a real, like, everything feels kind of scary. It feels like these kids know no one's watching them. You know, they're very aware of all that. So I think just good job by them. Yeah.
What about the grabber? And how we're introduced to the grabber and creepiness of the van and the balloons. And did you guys find it sufficiently creepy?
Oh,
So
yeah.
this is the scene, or the introduction of the kids. That's the very first deviation from the short story because there's no real background setting.
Yeah.
That scene where he gets Finn, that's really where the story starts, and so they kind of go through the backstory there. But that first introduction of Ethan's character is really creepy. I mean, it's just kind of weird, right? You can tell that he's just off.
Yep.
The strangeness of it all and the way he's acting, and then the intenseness that they give you when he's spraying the wasp spray or whatever it is in his mouth and throwing him in there. It's just so dark. And David, before we get too far, I want to agree with you about the performance of the kids, because actors, when they're put in these positions, they sometimes they're not quite there. And all of these kids, especially, I really like Madeline McGraw. She was amazing. They really are able to hold their own against an actor like Ethan Hawke, and it's what they create throughout the movie is so good that it's just it's worth praise.
I agree, and they carry a lot of the emotional weight in this movie, because the Ethan Hawke and even the closest to kind of the other adult characters like the police and their dad, they're all very distant from what's going on. So like these kids carry the weight of this movie really well.
They need to, because I kind of had this thought toward the end of watching it this time. Because I think, David, you put somewhere in our notes, maybe you said it has some coming of age elements, and it does, but I don't even think they really hit me the first time, because a lot of times these coming of age stories that involve children basically having to be independent and solve their own problems aren't this dark.
No.
And so it just kind of like didn't hit me as that way, because those movies tend to have happier endings. I mean, I guess you can say this has a happy ending in a way, but I just mean that like these kids, the kids save their own lives in this movie.
Yeah. Well, traditionally, most coming of age movies, there's an element of relatability.
Yeah.
Like they're going through some kind of milestone that maybe a lot of us go through. Very few of us go through surviving a serial killer, a child serial killer. So, but I think it does have those elements. Like this is a kid who is shy, but has to stand up for himself, and by the end of this, he's very capable of doing that. So I don't know.
You want to know what the most relatable moment for me was? When when Gwen runs over to her dollhouse and pulls out her prayer stuff there and goes, "Jesus, what the fuck? Seriously, what the fuck?" That was the most relatable part of the whole thing, because I feel like everyone has had that moment of like, what? And the way that she carries herself throughout this, because again, you talk about the emotional weight. She is beaten, and that moment is hard to watch because it is intense. And then her, being in charge of herself. It's really just, you can see that she has had to take control and be the adult for this family. And I don't know, she's just, for me, really won me over in this movie.
Yep. Another daughter having to raise her father for them.
Yep.
It is tough to watch, especially that scene where he's just literally beating the dreams out of her, or so he thinks. Yeah, that's rough. It's rough. Finney is abducted, which, honestly, Garrett, I thought you were going to say that was the relatable scene to you because of Ethan going, "I'm a magician! Get in my van!"
I never did that. Thank you very much.
Not that you did it, but that you may have been victimized by a magician in a van.
Fair.
Was I the only one thinking I would have still ran from that guy? Because despite how friendly he was being, his demeanor and voice were so deeply unsettling that I'd be like, "I'm going to keep walking, sir."
Yeah. If you grow up in a town where 4 previous children have been abducted and a van is just by the side of the road and some guy gets out of it, I'd turn around immediately.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's no, I'm going to give this a few seconds.
No. But it was the 70s, and they were still learning, I guess. But now we're in it. He's kidnapped. He's awoken in the basement, and this phone. There's a phone, the black phone, per the title, starts ringing on the wall. And this is where the supernatural really hits in. We get a taste of it with Gwen and her dreams, but Finney starts talking to actual victims of the grabber on the phone who are calling him from the great beyond. The fuck?
Well, and it's
that
also
was new
that,
to me.
Ethan Hawke can hear the grabber. He can hear the phone ringing too, but he chooses not to believe it.
Right.
And so I think that dynamic is also really fun. But for me, I mean, seeing Ethan Hawke in this kind of a role was something I hadn't seen before, and he's scary. He big scary. He like bulked up, and that mask and how he acts with the mask on is incredible. I mean, the mask brings him to life, and he brings the mask to life, like Jim Carrey did in 1994 or whatever it was. Like they work so well together.
Yeah, I watched a little bit of Ethan Hawke talking about this movie and talking about the mask, and he referenced, I don't know if this is an exact quote, he referenced a Bob Dylan line, which was something to the effect of, when someone's wearing a mask, they're telling the truth, because like the idea that like they're covering themselves, so they're being like, you can't see who they really are, like they're being their most truthful self, which is kind of analogous to like, the internet has created a lot of the ability to be anonymous, so people can act how they truly want to act without the sense of repercussions. And in this movie, this character, and so it's a two thing. For the character, it allows him to be who he really wants to be. For the performer, Ethan, it kind of allows him to take maybe more chances than I think he normally would, because he has this sort of veil of protection. He doesn't have to feel like, he's having to communicate everything with his face. He can communicate with his whole body, with his eyes, with his hands. I think it's it really freed him up.
I can see that. That makes a lot of sense. I was, same as you, Garrett, I was excited to see him in this because I hadn't seen him play a villain of this sort before. And he, I feel like, has always quietly been an extremely good actor, because he's not one of these guys that's just like, starring Ethan Hawke. He's not, his name's not everywhere all the time, but he's always been there doing great work. So it's awesome to see him do this, and seeing him do more stuff lately has been fun. He's great. What do you guys, how you feel about the mask? I want to talk about the mask design a little bit, since we talked about the creepiness of it and how it allows him to kind of disappear behind it. I don't know, how is it? I want to ask Garrett, how is it described this way in the book, or is it described really at all?
Yeah, that's what I want to know.
Do you recall?
I refreshed my memory a little bit, and that's a good question, because they don't really talk about a mask in this. And I will say, the description of the grabber is a quote grotesquely fat man.
Oh, I don't remember that part from the book, but it's been a while.
Yes. So they don't necessarily get into the depth of a mask, and so I think that is, I'm not confident, and if I'm wrong, we'll double check, but I think that the mask was something that was incorporated for this to be able to tell the story a little bit better. And I think the mask itself is truly an incredible piece. There's a scene that stands out to me where the grabber is standing in the dark of the stairway with the food tray for Finn, and he kind of looks like he's smiling. You can't really see, and he's just kind of playing with him a little bit, trying to get Finn to give him his name. And so Finn gives him a fake name, and he steps forward and he dumps the tray, and then you see his mask fades to a frown, where it looked like it was lit to be a smile, and it just fades down. And that alone was so brilliantly done that I marvel at it. This is the third time I've seen this movie, and it still amazes me every time.
It's so smart, and you're conditioned to see it as a smile, because the last time we had seen it, it was a smile. And there was the idea that this mask is sort of multi-part, that there's a sequence where he has the top part of the mask off and the bottom part on. And then there's I think an aspect later where he has the top part on, but the bottom part is like bare. Like there's no expression. It's just like it's like a featureless part that's on the bottom that he like picks and chooses the parts that he wants to show. It's a really interesting idea and very creepy mask with or without glasses.
Yeah.
Because sometimes he's got the glasses on too.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this whole part of this movie where he's talking, Finn is talking to the different elements of the grabber, you're also hearing their stories, and you're going along with them. They're giving Finn this piece of information. Hey, here's what I did while I was in here, and he's able to eventually, we'll get into that here in a second, put all of it together. But you're also find yourself rooting for all of those other kids, even though you know they're dead. They do such a good job of bringing them into the space, and while Finn can't see them, you can, and you can live through their tragic moments. And I thought that was a really cool way to expand everything. Again, the Bruce Yamada is the first person that we are introduced to that gets grabbed. He's in the book. The names of the others are not mentioned, and so I think that them being worked in there was really good. And the dynamic that they have weirdly gives me, to go to your point, David, of a coming of age story, it makes me feel like Haunted Goonies. I'm not gonna lie. It's like Haunted Goonies. Yeah.
And before because I do want to talk about that, but Josh, we kind of did you have thoughts on the mask?
No, I mean nothing to like go any deeper on. I just thought it was really cool and an interesting element to add in, especially hearing that it may not have been a significant part of the book at all. I mean, I would love to see like why did they choose the design they did? Why did they do a mask at all? I just thought it was really interesting, and it is cool. It always adds a creepier element when a bad guy has a mask. I mean, think of all the great horror icons with masks: Michael Myers, Jason. I was going to say Freddy, but his face is kind of a mask.
Well, yeah, and you
the
think
mask is a key element of a crazy villain.
A good villain, and it allows this character to kind of go back to those other kids. It allows this character to have so much power over them because they are unable to really know him or know who he is in real life. They get to see who he really is, I guess, if you really think about it. But one of my favorites was one of the last kids we're introduced to over the phone. I can't remember his name, but he has that long hair. He gets in a fight over a pinball game, and he's just like. He seems like kind of a tough dude for the grabber to have taken down, a tough kid, and I just kind of like his big thing of like, I ain't doing this for you, screw this guy. I'm censoring for language there a little bit, but that was a really powerful sequence, I thought. And it interplayed really well with how the sister was seeing these visions and getting closer and closer to solving this mystery.
Yeah, the kids on the phone are great because they're helping him do what they couldn't. And that last kid, the way he's teaching him how, like, I love the scene where he's teaching him how to punch the grabber with the phone. Like, it's almost like he's got a rhythm to it with the 5 steps back, pull back, punch. Like, they go back and forth through it and through it. It's cool. It's just, I've never seen a story told that way before where someone's held captive and trying to get out that way.
Yeah.
With the help of other past victims.
Yeah, it's very much built on the iterations of what these kids were able to do. They were able to get that rope thread. They were able to start digging through a hole. They were able to find a soft spot in the wall that you could drill through. They were able to carve the bike lock combination in the wall. Like all these little iterations, it took, unfortunately, these kids unfortunately had to fail for this kid to make it through, and it's a really interesting way to go about it.
Yeah, and we're into the third act now, so we'll get into spoilers if you don't want to hear the ending. But having the sister Gwen be more involved in her dreams. Initially I feel like that piece gets a little confusing until they're able to kind of clear it up, because at some point in time you start in there with Finn and the other child or other person, and then you go through his story, and then all of a sudden Gwen's there, and I'm like, what is she? What? Huh? and then you understand a little bit more. But that part for me was like the really the only piece that kind of confused me. And I do like that they found the bodies in the graves. First, there's a twist where you think that you're heading into the house to see Finn get saved, and you realize that it is not the same house, and that the kids that were found first were the ones who helped set the stage. You know, they were found, they were recognized, and
it's
through that,
Gwen's
he was
dream
able to save himself. Yes.
gives them the address. They've been again, adults. Why you not listen?
Yeah, they're relying on dreams for this investigation. They got nothing.
Hey, I get it, but you know what? Kids are disappearing, and weirder things have happened.
And and that it is like you said, Garrett. They very slowly introduce these dreams. They don't just like launch you right in with these really super vivid dreams she's having. She gets talked to by the police. Say you told someone you had a dream. We don't see that dream, but then slowly we see more and more of the visions that she's being given. That's bringing her closer to solving this mystery, and the way that is sort of being mirrored by the experience that Finn is having in the basement is, I think it's a pretty good job of two sort of like a parallel story that is connected to each other, and making you kind of root for these other kids.
For sure. And Josh, to go back to what you were saying about that last scene where he's on the phone, that was his friend at the beginning who saved him from the bullies, and so that story comes full circle. His friend got kidnapped by the grabber, and he was the toughest kid in school, Robin, and was like, here's what you have to do. And so yes, that scene when they are learning how, or like going over how to use the phone, and they're out of sync, and then they go through it over and over, and they end up in sync. It's that moment that I'm like, Goonies for life, man. Goonies for life.
And the actual the way it all plays out, the way that like this plan plays out of how he escapes is so like, I knew all of the elements, but I didn't know how they were all going to come together. The way he has the rope, the hole that he dug, not even knowing that there was going to be a dog in the room, and hey, I've cracked into the back of a freezer full of steaks. I mean, it all just came together so well. And that moment you realize that the police are in the wrong home, it's a moment where you realize, oh, Finn's really going to have to do this on his own.
Yeah,
like
they're
there's
not
no
gonna
one
get there in time.
They're not going to be able to save him. I think it's a really well done bit of it. Can I mention a character we haven't mentioned yet? But I just have to bring him up.
Please.
I have to bring up Max.
I was going to, so thank you. Because he's the one adult
brother
who almost helps.
Can I say that I know that it is actor James Ransone, okay, who was also in Sinister. He was in It Chapter 2. But man, he just looked so much like a coked out version of Link from Rhett and Link to me in this movie.
Okay.
Where I was like, is that Link? Like, he was just so wound up. It just tickled me. And his character being just sort of like so oblivious and yet so close. And then, I don't know. I was very entertained for a little bit there with him.
I mean, you wonder, how do you not know about your roommate's secret serial killer dungeon? But it's also soundproof, so I don't know.
Yeah.
And it was the 70s. No one knew anything, apparently.
Every
every day was a brand new day.
You guys have seen The Barbarian.
Yeah. That's true.
Yeah. The moment he figures it out, though, is so hilarious. When he's like...
He's thinking about it.
And he's just he just won't shut up is the problem when he meets his end, and he's just like, oh no, don't worry, I'm gonna get it, I'm gonna get help, I'm gonna go do it.
He's like, you wonder how I
hear
found
the story of how I found you? Yeah.
No, I want to get out of here.
Oh man, because at that moment too, it is one also like before, like we talked about a minute ago, the idea that Finney's gonna have to do this on his own. It's that brief glimmer of like, oh, maybe he's going to be able to get out of this without having to try to beat up a 45-year-old man, but it doesn't work out.
No, it does not. Finney does end up having to basically just like
defend himself
with his assortment of MacGyvered tools from his attempts at escape. and he beats him with the phone, right? Which is sweet irony, I guess.
It is. And I thought,
yeah,
I thought the grabber was dead, but
That's what I'm saying.
they always want you to think the grabber's dead. Yeah, they are working on the Black Phone 2. I guess the phone didn't break because I don't know how many supernatural phones there are. I don't think you could just go buy another.
yeah, it's gonna be interesting.
It will be interesting though. I don't know how they can do this. I mean, we don't know a lot. Let's be real about that. First off,
No.
there's not like plot details out yet or even a premise. But we know
No.
that like supposedly, it looks like most of the cast is returning, which would make
And,
sense for the grabber. But
Yeah, and Joe Hill, the writer of the story himself, is the one that pitched the story idea to Scott Derrickson. So it's coming from the original, the originator, if you will. So I mean, maybe that's a sign that they have a genuine nugget for how to take this forward.
right,
But I thought I thought he killed the grabber. I could have swore I heard his
Hey.
neck
Heck
snap.
we've watched plenty. We've watched plenty of movies where the killer does not meet the death we thought he did
It's true.
at the end. So I'm certainly. I mean, I'm down. We've seen. Not only have we seen killers die and come back, but done well. So I have no reason to think
Yeah.
that this could be good. It could be worth watching.
Yeah, and supposedly set for a release date of October 15th. So we should get a trailer soon.
Maybe.
October 15th of this year.
Maybe since the original was based on a story by Joe Hill, this movie can be made first, and then Joe Hill can write the novelization, and then it's a whole circle.
I like that. Yes,
it's worth
yes. They can finish it before Joe or whatever his face is finishes his last Game of Thrones.
Oh, what's his name? Yeah, the
George R.R. Martin.
George R.R.
Yeah.
Martin. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think we'll see Black Phone 2 before then,
Probably.
probably. All right, well, hey, that was a pretty good first book club meeting for a real book club, I'd say.
Yay. I think so.
I'm excited to keep going this month. Let's get into our final thoughts and ratings here. Your pick, Garrett. You do the honors of going first.
This is not a new experience for me. I have enjoyed myself every single time, and every single time I worry that it's not going to hold up, and it has. It's going to be a 4.5. I'm not going to quite give it 5 stars, but I'll give it 4.5 stars.
I am going to give it 4 stars. I just am super into it when I watch it. It held up for me the same. Ethan is just fun to watch. Kids are fun to watch. Yeah, 4 stars.
Yeah, and I agree. I don't know if I would quite go full 5-star classic or anything, but I think every aspect of the movie is well made. I think it's well written. It's not very long either. So I would watch this again and recommend it to others. So I would give it a 4 out of 5.
Sweet. All right, a successful movie. Let's guess if Letterboxd liked it as much as we did.
Oh boy, interesting.
I am on a streak that I don't understand. So
Get it.
I don't think I will see if it can continue this month. This month. I don't remember which of you two want to go first, though.
Oh, it'll have to be Garrett.
Okay.
It is me.
Defending champion is in the rear.
I don't think that they will be as high on it, but I think they'll be pretty high. I'm going to give it a 3.6.
That's a good guess. I will go slightly lower. Say 3.4.
Okay. I don't want to go in the middle because it's so boring. I'm going to pick 3.2.
3.2. Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
I don't know. I think I'm going too low, but
We have 2 chances for a split tie here then.
you never really know. Yeah. Okay. The Black Phone. Typing it into Letterboxd right now.
And then we need to find out if Paddington's reviewed this.
Yeah. Okay. What were our guesses again? What were your 2?
So I was 3.4 and Garrett was 3.6.
Okay.
Yeah.
We do need a tiebreaker between me and David. It is.
Oh.
Yeah.
So it's a
It is a
3.3?
3.3.
Oh, wow. All right. So that means Josh and I split the point. under the new rules.
Oh, you're right. We don't need a tiebreaker. Hell yeah.
So
Even
I
better.
don't have to.
See, the new rules are so good. We already love them.
They are.
Yeah, we're already moving on. I looked it up. Paddington has not reviewed The Black Phone, but I eagerly await his review.
He should watch it. He should. I did. I can't. I don't know why I messed up my order of reading the reviews first, but I still want to do a couple.
Yeah, dude. Yeah,
Reason.
go ahead.
I don't. Yeah.
The power of post.
The power of post. Yeah, let's look through some of the most popular reviews on Letterboxd. Here we've got 4.5 or 3.5 stars. A movie about the two scariest concepts known to man: getting phone calls and middle-aged magicians.
Oh, brother.
That's a great one.
4 stars. Always on that damn phone. And then finally, 4 stars. I would have died so fast because I wouldn't have answered the phone. I think there's a common theme there. People
There's a
find
common-
phone calls horrifying.
See, and I still love a good phone call every now and
Well,
again.
you know, it does depend on who it's from. If it's from a dead person, I may not be intrigued.
Not unless they got good advice.
Right. All right, that's going to do it for this episode. We'll be back next week with another book club pick of the month. Be sure
David, do you want to say what it is?
Yeah, tell the people.
Oh, yeah. So I have chosen Elmore Leonard's 3:10 to Yuma, which has been adapted 2 times into film, but we're going to be doing the 2007 version. Feel free, guys, if you want to watch the 1957 version as well. You don't have to. But yeah, 3:10 to Yuma.
I'm going to watch that one, and you two watch the regular one, and we're going to talk about it.
But it's an option. So yeah, the 2007 version starring Christian Bale and
Russell
Forgot his
Crowe,
name.
right?
Russell Crowe, that's it. I wanted to say Robert Crowe, and I knew that wasn't right. Russell Crowe, and a lot of other great actors. So I'm very much looking forward to that. It is also a short story because I was like, I'm not going to have time. I wanted to do No Country for Old Men, but that was 80,000 words. So I was like, I'm not going to make it.
80,000 nopes.
80,000 notes indeed.
And 3:10 to Yuma was 4,000, so I was like, I can do that.
That's a lot more doable. All right, well then, yeah, stay tuned for 3:10 to Yuma coming up later this month. Watch it. Let us know what you think of it. Stay tuned for that episode. Be sure you subscribe to the show. You can get videos on YouTube, So Many Sequels, and you can get videos on Spotify as well with the podcast there. Audio, you can get wherever you get podcasts. So go to SoManySequels.com. You can find links to all those. You can find our episodes. You can find our blogs. I just wrote a review about Death of a Unicorn. David recently has a review of Network up there, so go check those out. That's it. We'll see you guys soon.